Welcome to episode 1 of Backlog Battle, the monthly show where I just talk about some games that I finished. Today, we will be talking about Crazy Taxi, as evidenced by the PlayStation 2 version, which is not very good, but it's the one that I own physically. Grand Theft Auto 3, which I played for the first time. Vanquish, which I finished for the first time on God Hard difficulty. And a little bit about Tetris, the Grandmaster 2. As evidenced here by the homebrew Game Boy Advance port on my Analog Pocket. Now, like I said, this will be a monthly show. We're in the middle of May right now. So for the first 2 episodes, I will just be recapping the year so far. So this is January plus February. If you want some kind of rough idea of what I will be covering in this show, you can check out my backlog page. I'll link that in the description. And there you can see I make an effort to add every game, give it all a rating at the time that I finish it or at the time that I check it off from my backlog. And that's really the key with this show. I feel like I consume a lot of gaming content, game analysis, that is very much, okay, this is my very surface level thoughts on the first 2 hours of this game. It's not throwing shade at anybody. But I do just find this a little lacking. I find it very frustrating. This getting sucked up into this like tornado of current releases and then covering them in the shallowest way possible. I don't think that's a good way to cover games. I don't think that's, especially if you're an individual, right? I don't think that's a good way to engage with the medium in general. I mean, if you know me, you know I'm very much concerned with furthering my understanding of game design, and that's why with the games that I choose to play, I'm very selective. I specifically pick them because I feel like they hold an interesting spot in the medium. So I'm hoping number 1 with this show, because I have this natural interest in the entire game's history, and I go out of my way to play stuff that is not sort of in the current release calendar rotation, right? I feel like that might be interesting to people, but then also the fact that I actually finished the games before I talk about them. Or I at least get as far as I want to get with them right now, right? So a couple other things, for example, that I have been playing. Beautiful Joe, been playing the higher difficulties. Metaphor, right? That's stuff I've been chipping away at for a while, but I'm not going to cover it until I feel like, okay, I feel like I can say something interesting about this. I feel like I've sated my desire for knowledge with this game. But this will not be... I'm trying my best that this is not like a shallow, okay, first hour of every game that comes out, and then it's just the same shit that you could read everywhere else. So let me get started with Crazy Taxi. This is one of the best games I've ever played. This is one of the best games I've played. Maybe the best game I've played in many years, honestly. Easy, I want to say at least like top 20 candidate for my all-time games list. Maybe top 10, possibly top 10. My current skill level is that I can get over 20k relatively comfortably. I think my best score is like 24k. Which is not that great, that's not amazing, but it is the maximum rank that the game kind of dishes out. The game has a ranking system where it, it's sort of like modern action games, right? Where you get a score and then it attaches first a letter grade to your ranking. I think class S license, which ostensibly in a lot of games that would be the highest rank. You get that at 5k score. 10k you get an awesome rank, and 20k you get the crazy rank, which obviously is the best. But then you have people easily getting like well over 100k. So it's sort of the strange situation where clearly the devs did not really expect you to take the mechanics that far, but clearly there is room for that. There's room for doing that. And I also, this is kind of an aside, but this game has a heavy sort of color coding element that is important to your overall strategy. And as someone who's colorblind, that is really challenging. And my friend Pang, actually, he was shocked that I even got past 20k with that limitation. So that's a good preamble to know what you're kind of in for with this game. We did a full episode of our podcast, Beach Gen Game Club, for this game. Beach Gen Game Club is a show where we discuss the Beach generation, the 6th generation of console games. So again, like that's a time period of games that I have a particular interest in. Oh my god, I don't know if you can see that fly over there, but yeah. So if I'm talking about a game here, it's very likely that you'll also see it on the podcast and vice versa. But yeah, Crazy Taxi, I think most people are familiar with the premise. You're controlling a taxi, you have a limited amount of time that the game lasts. You park next to customers, they get in your car, they give you a destination, you drive them to the destination as fast as possible. As you pick them up and as you deliver them, you get bonus time depending on a couple factors. So there's both the idea that, okay, once I deliver them, they pay me, so I want to get as many deliveries as possible, or as many lucrative deliveries as possible in the time allotted. But then also I want to route it out in a way where I sustain the timer effectively. That's the basic conceit that I think people are very familiar with. And I think also people are familiar with the fact that the physics simulation and the handling model of this game, of the taxi that you're controlling, is insanely exaggerated. Totally fucking chaotic. The way you crash into other cars, all the weird shit that happens is very, very iconic. And that is a big way that I would define this game as well. The way I explain it is that there's three major pillars. There's the handling, there's the dynamic obstacles, or the dynamic nature of the obstacles, if you want to be pretentious. And finally, there's the overall game plan strategy factor. So, this is something, our arcade games, single-player focused arcade games especially, this pick up and play idea where you get in really quickly and it's immediately about skill and it's about competing against yourself primarily, right? That is a really intoxicating style. That is a style that I really appreciate, but it's something that's also really hard to nail. You want something that doesn't devolve into pure memorization. You want something that feels very dynamic, but then at the same time you don't want it to be random to the point that it feels like your performance is up to chance. Partly, right? There's one example that I always go back to is Pac-Man Championship Edition. For those who have played it, this is a pretty big iconic game. It's just a spin on Pac-Man, right? I think even if you haven't played it, you'll understand this example where very early on in your route, there's one ghost, like literally a couple seconds into the game. It can either go left or right. I'm not sure which is which anymore, but let's just say for the sake of simplicity, they go left. Perfect, easy. You can get all the ghosts in one sequence. Perfectly sustains your route. Awesome. Nice. If they go right, you're basically off route, and then your run is immediately suboptimal, right? It's objectively just worse. And once I discovered that, I just kept restarting the game over and over again, right? Because there was nothing really I could do about it. And like that's the thing. Like, if you're not doing that, you're already suboptimal. So why not just do it? And I think that shows you it's this very frustrating sort of uncanny valley between, okay, they're trying to make the game more dynamic, but like I don't know if it's that much more interesting, right? If the ghost just goes a different direction. But then the game is so simple in its simulation and its control scheme, all that there really aren't that many tools that the designers can leverage to make it more dynamic. And I think racing games, driving type games, are uniquely poised to tap into that. Obviously, driving games, racing games, usually not very decision based. I think maybe like the one counter example that I can kind of think of is Outrun 2, where, okay, if I made some kind of mistake earlier, and this is a little complicated, but I'm at a certain speed and I need to take this next corner, like, depending on my current situation, I might use a different technique to take that corner. Not just pure, like, I know there is an optimal way to do it, but there are certain factors that can sort of muck it up, and then I'll do a different gear, or I'll just use the brake or whatever, right? I think that alone shows you just the handling itself in a racing game, the fact that all these little things interact, everything affects everything. Your speed affects your ability to turn. Your speed affects your ability to gear shift or to do a brake. Even though there is an optimal way to take every corner, like I said, in that sense, it's not very decision heavy. It's very rich and very complex and very dynamic. And I think Crazy Taxi is the game that manages to marry those things, to marry those appeals, to make a really complex, like high skill ceiling driving game, but with the dynamism of an action game. Now the handling, I don't know how deep I want to go into that, right? But it is, I think if you spend like a couple seconds even researching the game, it's gonna be obvious that there's a lot going on. It's pretty legendary in the just amount of things you can do. You can do a friggin' ollie, right? You can just jump in place, and all those things are, and that's Crazy Taxi 1. In Crazy Taxi 2, they just straight up added a jump button, right? In Crazy Taxi 1, a lot of those interactions, your car lifting into the air, your car sliding under trucks or trailers or whatever, all those things are emergent. All those things are just naturally arising from the systems. And it's so inherently, I don't know, I like driving games. I'm a decently big driving game guy, or race game as they call it in Japan. I don't know if I've played one that has this like stim toy level of satisfaction where it's so inherently fun to just fuck around and move and like fucking ram into walls, to do insanely long drifts. It's very, again, it's very like Mario 64 DMC-ish in that way, to use those buzzwords, right? I know my audience responds well to that type of shit. If you like those types of games, if you're brained like me, this will be your shit. This will be your game. But then the other thing, like I said, the dynamic obstacles, second pillar. The way they do it is really clever. The traffic in this game spawns in set intervals. It is scripted, but the types of vehicles that spawn is random. That's genius. That's like the fact that I can rely on certain timings, that it's not strictly luck based. Like the two different types of players, right? They might have different situations in the types of cars they will have to interact with, but the timings themselves are the same, right? So they could feasibly take a similar route and then still have a similar amount of time saving, or just a similar amount of obstruction. And I should have organized my thoughts on that better. We talk about it more in Beach Gen, but needless to say, I think once you stack those things on top, right, the traffic and then your handling model, it's in this perfect zone of it's you know that it should be controllable. It should be this controllable chaos, but it does become chaotic inevitably, just because of how volatile the mechanics are inherently. And then there's this planning element with the customers, which is also not random. There's kind of a complicated system undergirding it. Again, we explain it in the Beach Gen episode. If you're interested in how exactly that works, listen to that. But I think for the average player, what's really just important to recognize is that you, with sort of a little bit of surface level knowledge, you can make really good assumptions about what's going to happen. Okay, where is this customer going to send me once I stop there? There are a lot of just general rules that you can pay attention to, that you can adhere to, that will get you very far. But then there's still a lot of potential for things to just not go your way, where momentarily you will have to react to it. Even just the idea that, okay, at some stages of the game, some customers will be spawned or will not be spawned. If an area is not very dense with ideal customers, you might just pivot to somebody that's not ideal, but it will sustain your timer, and that's all you need in the moment, right? This balance between I have a strategy in mind, but I need to be ready to pivot on the fly. That's so rare. And that's something that this game not just does really well, but exemplifies really well. It's really easy to understand how that works. Yeah, Crazy Taxi, legendary fucking game. Really rewired my brain, just like Sifu and Alien Soldier did a couple years ago. It is finally one of those moments again for me. Completely washes Crazy Taxi 2 and 3. I think those games are not even close. 3 is okay. 3 is not bad, but this is the one. This is the one you need to really appreciate and study. And it's giving me like ideas for game design as well, especially sort of the customer routing thing. To me is so genius. Even if it's in the details, it's like a little weird and flawed, but yeah. Yeah. Okay, so from one car game to the next car game, Grand Theft Auto 3, my first time playing it. Well, I have fucked around with it in the past. I played at friends' houses. Like had it downloaded on the fucking PS2 or whatever. Just messed around with the first couple missions. But this time I actually committed to seeing the whole game. And Dude, what do you even say about GTA 3? I did write a whole review for it on Backlogged. You can check that out if you want. I think in the context of this video, I think recently there's sort of been a resurgence and appreciation for the older GTAs, especially 3. 3 is like the most nucleus point, inception point for these mechanics, for this type of design. And in that sense, it feels very pure. It's very much in the spirit of, okay, we just put a guy on the map, go and kill him, and then see the chaos kind of unfold. I did a rant about the GTA 6 trailer the other day. You can watch that on my channel. And I talked about the fact that the old GTA games, and even like to some extent something like 5, there's this really nice blend of inherently satisfying arcadey systems. A lot of things are just very exaggerated. I have to the one thing I think a lot about is the drive-by mechanic, where you can fire out of your car window left and right. And it's just this massive like submachine gun spread, and the word I want to use is actionable. It's so easy to like interact with it, and it's obvious why it's good. It's obvious how to use it, and like it results in all these fun dynamic situations. And to be honest, that is something the series got away from a little bit with 4 and 5. I'm really curious to revisit 4 now that I have this extra context. But yeah, to me, just the core interactions of I'm driving around, I'm ramming into shit. I have missions where it's just 3 guys on a map, like I said, 3 guys in a car, and I gotta chase down this car, I gotta ram it off the road. Just the amount of shit that can happen in those types of missions is really, really sick. And I was really impressed with just in general with the emergence of the world and the aggression of the AI. I was really shocked that cops were like super proactive when they were in their cars. Like cop cars were super proactive. They would ram into you, try to cut you off. I don't know how, like, it's hard to say how much of that is like really intelligent or like really sort of simple tracking kind of code, right? But in practice, the traffic in this game is shockingly dynamic to interact with. Sort of like Crazy Taxi. Now, I will say my big disappointment with this one, I think the structure of it doesn't really work for me. I don't really value preparation as a gameplay element. Coming into a mission, like, fully loaded, like, I scoured every spot for guns, I went to the store to buy some stuff, blah, blah, blah. I found the hidden packages to get all the extra bonus items. All that shit is just, I get it, it's just not something that I appreciate. I want to make a video about exploration in games in general, and how that's really hard to get right for me. In a lot of games, especially when you have this sort of this juxtaposition of exploration and combat focus, that's really hard to nail for me. Usually I just want to focus on the action. And to me, once there is like, I think the GTA games are in this like weird uncanny valley again, where it's like highly beneficial to prep, but there's really no nuance to it, right? It's not like a game where there's a timer or something where that's a real choice, right? There's a real choice, and okay, how long can I feasibly spend on preparing myself? Now this is sort of, I think this is a weird thing in general that I've been thinking about, because like when I drive to the ammunition shop, ammunition, that's what it's called. When I drive to ammunition in GTA, that's like technically gameplay, right? I'm driving, I'm interacting with the handling model, I'm interacting with the traffic, blah blah blah. And like it's technically dynamic because there's so many dynamic systems at play, but is it really that interesting? Is it really that meaningful that I should be repeating that shit that much? I don't know. I feel like, I want to say, I really need to revisit Crackdown, because I feel like Crackdown could be sort of the evolution that I'm looking for in that regard, where it just streamlines. I think just the fact that in Crackdown, all the major missions are just active in the world at all times, which, specifically, like, the only thing you do in this game is, like, in Crackdown, is kill specific targets, right? And they're always active in the world at all times. So it really becomes a game about, okay, I approach this area, and then I scope it out, and then I see, oh, there's the guy, and then I find a way to kill him, right? And then a lot of the prep in this game arises organically through play, but just, oh, I see the orbs, I jump on them, blah, blah. To me, that's such a streamlined, organic way of handling it, versus, okay, I go to the store, I get the weapons, then I go to the mission, then I load into a cutscene, and then I'm in the confines of that mission. And if I break, if I don't obey those confines, the mission will fail, and then I have to do the prep again, do all this other shit again, blah blah. That just doesn't really work, in my opinion. I think Crackdown is the better approach there. However, I feel like the core gameplay of Crackdown is not as rich. The handling model for the cars is not nearly as good. The traffic is not nearly as challenging as it is in GTA 3, for example. So I feel like the perfect game there is still yet to be made. Yeah, and again, I was hinting at earlier, one big disappointment for me was just that it takes a while to ramp up. I do think a lot of the missions in the early game are pretty simplistic and don't really play to the strengths of the mechanics as much. It ramps up really well toward the end, and I really appreciate it, and I think it's worth playing. Yeah, good game. Like I said, I have a review on my backlog if you want one more eloquently put thoughts. I've also finished Vice City. I will talk about that in the next episode of this show, so look forward to that. Oh my god, let me get some water. We've been talking for half an hour. So, next game, Vanquish. This is the PlayStation 4 version. I played on the PS5. No, this is like a weird thing in general. They upgraded this game to 60 FPS on the new consoles and on PC. And I know there's some they had some really major issues with 60 FPS when the game originally dropped. When the port originally dropped, they fixed those, but then still some stuff kind of remains. I'd be kind of curious to replay it on maybe a good one to pick would be the 360 version on the Xbox One, like on backwards compatibility, because that way you're at least you're solving all the frame rate issues at 30 FPS. I don't know. I'm very much a purist with console games, especially. I kind of want to get as close. I want to play the game that the developers originally made, and in this case, that's not given, right? This is a port by another studio. So part of me is a little bit like, did I get the full experience? That's also why I wanna redo my Bayonetta Pure Platinum challenge on the 360, because that's the only version that was developed by Platinum. But yeah, I'm sort of in this like one action game, like one sweat S rank type action game at a time kind of phase right now. First was Bayonetta, then was Vanquish, right now it's Beautiful Joe. I don't know if I'm gonna go for S ranks of Beautiful Joe, or Rainbow V as it's called. But yeah, Vanquish got hard. That was the big one, right? That was the big looming thing that I really wanted to get to. Legendary fucking difficulty, legendarily difficult difficulty. It's arguably a reference to God Hand as a game. The fact that it's called God Hard. It's, the way I would put it, like now that I've beaten it, it is one of the hardest things I've done in a game. And I'm very proud of myself in that way. I did not do very well at all. My score was like, for those who don't know, you get points for certain actions, but then you lose points when you die. My score was like deeply in the negative. It was like my score was unrecoverably bad by like the second chapter or something already. So I died a fucking lot, right? I think this was like a 20-hour endeavor to finish God Hard. I just quadrupled the length of this game. I mean, the fact that I'm so fucking bad at it, clearly, and I still did it, maybe is an indication, okay, anybody can do it. You should try it. It's also that I think acclimating to the difficulty is the hardest thing. Really, I don't think the enemy placements are the difference. However, the enemy behavior is very different. The fucking basic Gorgies are so much more aggressive, so much more lethal, and they spam the shit out of grenades. The grenade spam in this game is unreal. And again, it's a distinct difference from the other difficulties. It's not just like they cranked up the damage values. There's like other differences too. Let me look that up while we're at it. Vanquish God Hard changes. What is health is dramatically lower. I think health is lower. This is a sort of subtle distinction between health is lower versus damage is higher. This person says there are far more enemies. This is the Steam forums. See, energy gauge depletes much faster when boosting or in AR mode. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I felt that. No, they did get rid of the upgrade system for weapons, which I think is actually good, because like it disincentivizes weapon loyalty. You can genuinely just think situation by situation. Okay, what is the best thing? And then also it gave me this old school, like almost Halo type sense where, okay, I'm really holding on to this rocket launcher as long as fucking possible, until I literally can't anymore because it's such a fucking boon. And if you're going for like scoring, even I think there's some interesting implications there because your ammo is restored when you die. So you lose score, but you get ammo back. That might be kind of a strategic thing. I don't know what the integrity of the scoring system in Vanquish is. If people care about it, probably not. People probably don't care about it. But yeah, the way I would put it overall is that Vanquish Godheart is like elevated bullshit. It is the apotheosis of like 7th gen shooter Call of Duty Gears of War bullshit. At that point it has very little to do with like traditional Japanese action games. It feels like an elevation of those 7th gen design sensibilities, like the regenerating health, short times to kill, just general spam, cover systems, cover reliance. I'll get into that in a second, but there's some sort of classic action game shit still in there, even at that difficulty. But a lot of it was like, okay, I really need to internalize. For this specific arena, this is where the enemies will spawn. I will throw the grenade in this order, do this with that weapon. I was genuinely routing out every single room in this game. That is the type of experience this is. And when I say it's elevated bullshit, I do mean it. I don't know if this shit was playtest at all, to be honest with you. It is so far beyond like the realm of fairness a lot of the time. There's so much shit that makes no sense. I forget what I said about it like on Discord, but just the idea that you peek out of a corner for like literally 1 second and you can get one shot by something that you didn't even see. Just a sniper looking at you the wrong way, bam, you're dead. It's so insane. And like the final boss had some weird shit where after you melee him and then you do the rocket launcher follow-up, right? It's complete fucking RNG whether you'll hit him or not. I don't know exactly how the game determines it, but it feels completely random. And like most of my friends that I showed that to, they were like, "What the fuck? This is absolute insanity." So in that sense, part of me is like a little hesitant to recommend it to people. Part of me thinks like, okay, this is a very painful experience where most people will probably not see the vision at all, and it's, how do I put it? You have to be really wired in a specific way to like appreciate it, I would say. But the experience, again, to me, having it feels like, it almost feels like it's canonizing the 7th gen bullshit that I mentioned, right? It's taking it to such a fucking far plane that it becomes something much more, dare I say, artistic. I feel like I'm not super deep in those types of experiences, right? I was never like a Call of Duty veteran type of player. But I do recognize that it is that is a very specific type of appeal that has kind of its place in gaming. And I feel like Vanquish gave me that in like the most distilled, concentrated form ever. And then still you have a lot of enemy design. I think the Bia, those are like they're sort of made up of these spheres and they move in these like very organic kind of ways, and it's just the natural spacing of that. There's so many enemies, so many of the heavier enemies. Once the game really intelligently recognizes, okay, this is when we're gonna spawn, this is when we're gonna spam all the basic fucking fodder that will gun you the fuck down, grenade you the fuck down, and it will be a nightmare. And then these are the more measured fights where you fight maybe 2 bigger enemies and you're trying to stay at mid-range, you're constantly spacing, you're really careful about where to dodge exactly, you're really careful about which types of moves to hit stun. The game is really well considered in that way as well. I think there's like an art in making enemies so threatening and control space so in such an organic way, and then you can still like pin them down. Like the game has the confidence to give you those tools to really pin them down. And I think especially when I compare it to something like Doom Eternal, that's a game I want to re-examine a little bit. I feel like maybe I wasn't completely fair to it. I don't know. People who know me, who see me shit on Doom Eternal, this may be a big moment of vindication. Yes, I do want to re-examine it. I do want to re-examine Doom Eternal. my current impression of that game is just, okay, it is kind of soup. It's so splashy and so everybody's just firing at all cylinders at all times. It's just one big fucking mess. And yes, it is like threatening, but it doesn't feel very thoughtful in that way. And I feel like the way I get out of it is not by like planning out a careful route or playing in a more measured way. It's just by spamming even more myself, right? Like the way you pin people down in Doom Eternal compared to Vanquish, it's just a lot more degenerate. It feels a lot less planned. It feels a lot more primal, a lot more reactive, a lot more instinctual. Which, you know, partly that is, I think Vanquish is more concerned with sort of long-term resource management, whereas Doom Eternal is founded on this idea of an infinite resource loop, which I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, elevated artistic bullshit. That's Vanquish God Hard mode. I think if I revisit the game, if I play it in the future, I don't know if I would be that interested in playing God Hard again. I'm not gonna lie, that it was like, y'all know the fucking meme of like the traumatized soldier meme, that one, right? That's how I feel about Vanquish when I look back on it now. So maybe, and like, I think Electric Underground, Mark, he said it as well, that the game could have used a difficulty between hard and God Hard. The jump is just so fucking legendary. Again, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it. I don't know if anything like that has ever existed in games. It is truly insane. So, I think it is a combo of, you have like some of the greatest game designers in the world and some of the greatest like engineers in the world and artists in the world who they have those really deeply seated instincts about what a good game is, and then they set out to make like the most insane bullshit / dog shit / kusoge that you've ever seen. That's Vanquish God Hard. 10 out of 10, great game. Now finally, we'll be talking about a little bit, this is such a fucking technical ass game that I feel a little bit intimidated by it, a little bit out of my depth, but I have been grinding it. Tetris the Grandmaster 2. Now this here is not necessarily related. This is a homebrew port of Tetris the Grandmaster, so it includes the game mode from TGM1, the master mode from TGM2, and then also includes the death mode from TGM2. TGM2, Tetris the Grandmaster 2, also known as TAP, the Absolute Plus is what that stands for. It's a Tetris variant developed by Arika. I've had friends sort of, they have this like very intuitive understanding. Okay, Tetris is like, you know, one of the most well thought out, considered games I've ever read. Obviously, immaculate game. But then they don't really appreciate the differences between the variations, and they don't appreciate it that deeply in general. And to some extent, I am that guy. I think I'm someone who has traditionally appreciated differences between Tetris versions, but it's also like, okay, a lot of what I play is sort of like marathon, really easy to like not die, blah 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 type bullshit. And I was like appreciating, okay, I'm getting better at the game. I'm seeing how the pieces interact. I'm finding new ways to build a well or to do combos or whatever. And it's cool. But I was never really pushing my gameplay that far. And then recently, again, a couple friends and I, we got back into TGM2, and then specifically the Master Mode. The Master Mode is not one that I gave a lot of attention to prior. The thing about TGM2, and to some extent TGM1 as well, I haven't played 3 or 4 that much. 4 came out this year. Very buggy game, unfortunately, from what I heard. In a pretty messy state. So I haven't hopped on yet. But I mean, if that shit turns out to be Game of the Year, I'll be so happy, but anyway, my characterization of TGM2 is, number one, it has this really flexible drop system and gravity system where obviously when you like a lot of more recent Tetris variations, when your piece contacts the floor, you can still rotate it for a little bit. That's a given, right? But then in TGM2, they added the what they call the sonic drop, which is not the same thing as the hard drop. The sonic drop, basically, it will instantly drop it to the floor, but then it will not lock the piece. You can still rotate it a little bit. So what kind of emerges as a playstyle, and I think the first thing that occurs to you is like, oh, I can press up and then down to lock it. That just inherently feels really good, that sort of slamming motion. but it gives you an unprecedented level of control compared to other Tetris variations. It gives you a sense of, okay, I can push my gameplay really far, I can be really precise with my movements. And then there's like, I think Japanese players have referred to this as zangi moves, where they do like, 3/4 circles to like get the piece in a specific position. It's pretty fucking mental. The other thing is that the TGM games, they have this sort of handcrafted approach to gravity, where obviously gravity is this variable in Tetris where it determines how fast your pieces drop. And a lot of Tetris versions, it just increases linearly. Whereas in TGM, they hard set a level of gravity for every interval where the gravity changes. So as you progress, you might even have moments where the game briefly pauses the gravity, right? Where there's almost no gravity and you get a second to breathe before it then escalates again. And the way it does that just gives it a sense of, like, this is a stupid way to put it, but like just arcadey, video gamey pacing that, again, something like Tetris, you file as this very artificial, sort of cold game. To me, that extra layer was always the special sauce that made it much more satisfying to do a quick run of TGM2. Now, the base mode of TGM2 caps out at a certain number of lines, and you get like little moments where you have like little power-ups or little weird stipulations. There's like, you have the ghost piece at the bottom that shows you where your piece will drop when you do the sonic drop. And then that disappears over time, for example. Like, those kinds of little touches are something that I appreciate. And again, you hit the cap, it's very much a game about just doing that as fast as possible. You feel good about yourself. You're like, yeah, I did a nice little satisfying run. That was great. It's a whole different thing when you finally get to master mode. For some reason, I just never, I don't know, I was like, yeah, whatever, master mode is cool, but like, I didn't really seriously, investigate it, I guess. And now that I have, holy shit, dude, I don't even know, does master mode, I think it has a cap, but it's much, much higher, and the gravity gets so insane that, like, that alone makes you appreciate the game on a totally different level. There's a real, I think if you've played recent version of Tetris, like, especially stuff like Puyo Puyo Tetris, there's insanely loosey-goosey with how they allow you to slot pieces sort of into holes or crevices or whatever. I feel like I can mash the rotate button and just whatever I want will happen, right? Whereas in this game, I don't even know how it's done programmatically, but there's a sense that the gravity truly is like constantly active. And when I'm rotating against a piece, I really feel that physicality, right? There's like all these ways that you can push pieces off of the wall, or you have to, when you try to slot a thing into a tiny hole, you have to really account for the direction of your rotation as well, in a way that, again, it's just at a clip, at a pace that is so insane that is just completely unlike any other Tetris. And I think that is why, for the Tetris heads, this is the obvious big one, right? This is the one that you actually need to master. This is the one that people really give a shit about and get really fucking nasty at. This is the one with all the weird fucking skill videos. Let me double check. What is actually my best score? I don't know if it's my best score, but I did upload a run. Dude, for some reason I can't name search on Discord. I'm trying to find I posted like a high score. Yeah, my best run that I uploaded anyway was 528 lines. That's usually the way we've been comparing our scores with each other, my friend group. Yeah. There's also I've messed around with death mode, where the gravity just starts at, I think it's maximum level, and it's super insane. I think that's maybe one tiny flaw with master mode, I feel like, where it feels like you're building up to the part that's really hard. And up until then, the game just kind of has you, is kind of blueballing you a little bit. That's the sensation I got. To be honest, I don't know how much deeper I can go with this one to really explain it further. I don't know if I have the exact technical knowledge. I've been describing it pretty vaguely and loosely, but I hope maybe that was enough to sell you on the game and explain sort of why it's interesting and why it's uniquely worth checking out over other Tetris versions. Again, if you have if you want to play it portably, it is on the Switch, so that's cool. But then also there is the GBA port that somebody did. Just type into Google Tetris the Grandmaster GBA homebrew or whatever, and you'll find it. I suggest playing it on arcade stick. For me, the motion of like Sonic Drop and then lock, that feels really natural on the arcade stick. That's how I've been playing it for the most part on the PS4. Unfortunately, the input lag on the Switch is kind of high, and yeah, emulating on MAME, not my favorite. Not what I would recommend personally. Ooh, okay, wow, that was 50 minutes of game yappery. Holy shit. I hope that wasn't too rambly. I hope it was somewhat productive. So, let me quickly reveal that, yes, this is a monthly show. However, future episodes will be exclusive to Ko-fi members on my Ko-fi page. So you go to my Ko-fi page, you slide me $5 a month, and then boom, you'll have access to all episodes released up to that point. So maybe you could just wait for the episodes to pile up before you subscribe. That's something I'm very much open to. I'm also open to the idea that I might slide individual segments out of those videos onto the main channel for everybody to see. Just to remind everybody, hey, I'm doing these like little game reviews, But yeah, this is like, I had a feeling this is the type of content that some people just wanted me really to do. Just to talk about games that I played, right? And I've been trying to figure out, okay, I wanna make this sort of as easy to do as possible, while also it being like relatively substantive content, while also being like worth doing in terms of the effort, because again, like, I've been sitting here for an hour recording this, so hope I found the right balance there. I hope there's some interest for this format. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this. Maybe there's things just other approaches I could take. If you want to see, I don't know how much I'm gonna edit this. Probably not a lot. If you want to see footage during the thing, if that would be valuable, if that would make you be interested in paying money for it. I can announce already, like I said, the next episode of this show will already be out by the time you're seeing this. And it will include discussion on Monster Hunter Wilds, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, Rakugaki Showtime, and Blue Revolver Double Action. Those will be the games for next episode. I already have some stuff written down for May that I'll be able to discuss. And then if there's, again, like I said, you can check out my backlog to see what other games I've been playing. Maybe there's a couple games sort of around the November, December period that you'd like me to talk about, like Final Fantasy 16, Mouthwashing. If you want to hear thoughts on those games, I can slide that in if you want, possibly as like a little bonus episode. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching.